Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Hoikety Choik, hosted by your orientation coordinators, myself, Cianna and my wonderful partner, Chiara Perry.
Hello.
And today with us, we have the wonderful and amazing Yanni. Yanni, would you like to say hi?
Hi, I am Yanni. I'm a third year and I'm majoring in English and psychology. That's who I am.
Thank you, Yanni. We're so lucky to have Yanni on the podcast with us today. We are planning to talk a little bit about food today, cooking, and how food has played a big part in, I think, all three of our childhoods and in our family dynamic. And so we're very excited to be hearing more about Yanni's home experience and sharing a little bit about our own.
Awesome.
All righty then. Thanks for that glamorous introduction, Cianna. So Yanni, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of your, maybe like your favorite memory, like involving food or connected to food?
Oh, that's an easy one. So I came to Canada 5 years ago. So predominantly my childhood was in the Philippines. And my mom, I think one of my favorite memories of food was sometimes we'd have to wake up really early in the morning because our family lived like 3-hour drive away, like our extended family. So we'd wake up really early and only on special days, but on certain days, she would cook this dish called champorado, which it's a Filipino dish, although I'm pretty sure it's also Spanish. That's just like this rice porridge, but it's chocolate. And yeah, it was a very prominent memory because I remember when I was a kid, I'd eat it and it's like, whoa, this is amazing chocolate for breakfast, you know? But then she and my dad would pull out these tiny dried fishes, like really salty. You see the eye bulging out and you're like, oh, never gonna eat that because like they eat the whole fish, right? And then they eat it with the chocolate. They eat it with a champorado because it goes well together. But as a kid, I was like mind blown by that. And that's my
Did you
favorite.
eat it like that when you were little?
I didn't because I was not a fan of seeing a fish and eating it, but I would today.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know, Yanni, that you only moved to Canada 5 years ago.
2015, so actually 6 years. By June 5th, it will be 6 years.
So were you living in Philippines the whole time before that?
Yes, the entire time.
Oh my gosh, learn something new every day. I love this podcast, honestly, Yanni, because I feel like Kiana and I learned so much about our guests that we didn't know before, even though like I consider us to be friends. Like I didn't know that.
Are we? No, we are friends.
Oh my gosh, Yanni, you're gonna break my heart. Okay, I see how it is.
No, but we are. Yeah.
I think it's like so crazy too, like over the, like I've never met you in person, Yanni, but like I think we're homies. You've given me great recipes.
I know recipes too.
This is how you all become homies.
We're
Share
homies.
recipes.
We bond over bread.
Bond over bread. Bond over carbs. I love that. Did you do like a lot of cooking within, like, what am I trying to say? Like growing up, did you spend a lot of time in the kitchen, like with your mom or your grandmom or your dad, like making food for like family dinner or like family events?
Well, I wasn't, our stove was a gas stove and it was kind of like really open flames. I wasn't really allowed near cooking as much as when I'm here in Canada now because it's electric stove stuff safer. But I would always help out. My family, we weren't really that extravagant with food, you know. But we had this tree in our yard called a malunggay tree. Malunggay there is no English word for it. The scientific name is Moringa oleifera. I've tried finding, can't find it. They grow in these like stems and their leaves are tiny little, they're like circles and there's a lot of them. And you put them in soup. And to do that, you have to pluck them one by one. And it's really fun, but I would do it all the time. And that's one of the ways I'd help. It's
that's so cute. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. You know what?
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that's so funny because like I remember growing up, I like I would say like I didn't help cook like dinner food, like, but I think baking was a really big thing with my mom. And like honestly, bless her soul, because like us helping her bake would be my mom scooping the flour and then me using a knife and like leveling off the flour and then me handing the measuring cup to my brother and then my brother dumping it in the bowl and then it going back to my mom. Like we probably extended the time it took to bake by like so long. And even when there were like easy things that she thought we could do, like mix the dough, we'd be like, oh, our arm's tired now. And then she'd have to end up doing it in the end anyways. So all of that to say is like, I would say like baking with my mom was a big part of like how we were like helpful. But I remember like being in grade 8 and my mom like always telling me like, you know, Cianna, when I was in grade 8, I used to cook dinner for my whole family every week. And like her throwing shade at me, I'm like, okay, but what would I cook? Eggs? You want to eat eggs? And I can put rice in the rice pot? Like, that's all I know how to do. Anyways.
I love that your mom let you help with baking, though. That's adorable.
Oh yeah, I think maybe by the time I was in grade 8, I could cook, but definitely in grade 6, I feel like I got shade for not helping to cook more. But then I like said to her, I was like, well, I don't know how to cook anything. And she's like, well, then why don't you come into the kitchen and learn? And so yeah, that's how my mom ended up teaching me how to cook, because she threw shade at me. And then I was like, okay.
That's so funny that like you've gotten into cooking by your mother shading you, basically.
Trial through shade.
Trial through shade. I love my mom. And it was good. It was like, love her recipes. I think, I don't know, Yanni, if you've experienced this, but like over the years, I feel like some of the things that my mom used to cook a lot, like we don't cook it anymore. And it's kind of like phased out of our like normal like dinner routine. But I don't know if like that's just like us, we're like, oh, we're too lazy to make that anymore, or like we just don't feel like making it anymore, and then after a while you just never make it again.
Well, I don't know about like, because like my mom, she likes cooking, especially for my dad and I. Like it's her favorite. She genuinely, like, I tell her, mom, please, I can make my own sandwich for university. I'm in my first year, please, mother. But she will put her foot down, and be like, no, you're under my roof, I feed you. And she's awesome like that. Although I mean, it's not really like, it's not controlling or anything. It's just great. And I think because we migrated, we actually tend to hold on to our recipes a lot more, though they have altered quite a fair bit. You know, certain like, if I don't know, my mom cooks afritada. I mean, she cooks most of the same things, except just sometimes the ingredients are different. Instead of malunggay, we use spinach.
That's true. What are ingredients that you would usually be able to have when you're home in the Philippines, but you can't have here when you're home in Canada?
What's really, really cool about Canada is food is not as much of a hard thing to acquire, like ingredients wise, because of, well, it's here and it's Canada and we have a different life here. And there are certain small things like malunggay, for example, like you can't really find that usually around here. But most of the foods that should go with the recipes we used to have at home, we can get them around here, especially like different cuts of meat and stuff like that. So it's not too different. It's just slightly different. Yeah. How about you guys? What do you guys cook, like with recipes and stuff? Are there any alterations and things that you make?
I think like, well, so I'm half Italian, so like that's the like primary cuisine that my family cooks. And so we don't really have like a hard time like finding ingredients, luckily. But it's funny because when my grandparents immigrated, they like came in like the late 40s, early 50s, and like they landed in Halifax with their boat and they got on a train to like come to Toronto. And when they got on the train, they were given like a loaf of, like their family's given a loaf of bread, and it was like Wonder Bread. And the guy was like, here's your bread. And they were like, what is this squishy, like malleable bread? Because they were used to like hard, crusty like bread in like Italy. And they were like, what is this man giving me this like squishy, like Play-Doh like consistency? And then they were like, all right, I guess this is Canada now. And then they like all kind of like went on the train with their like squishy bread and like, you know, immigrated and whatnot. But like since coming to Canada, my grandparents were like, you know, you gotta appreciate the good things. So like if I brought my grandmother like a nice piece of like crusty bread, she'd be like, Chiara, I love you, giving me the good stuff. My hand's gotten like really Italian for some reason, but for anyone watching, or anyone listening, I've been doing the chef hand for a while. But yeah, crusty bread, the Italians love.
I have a story for you. It's also an immigrant story and being baffled by Canadian or like, well, North American food practices. Okay, you're gonna love it because like that squishy bread really, it struck a chord with me, you know. So when my family first migrated here, we lived with my aunt and uncle for a while. So we lived in their basement because, you know, we still first got here. My dad is already here for 3 years prior, but my mom and I were new. And we're doing our own groceries. We're going to No Frills. We're like, oh, No Frills. What is this place? And we go and we're like, oh, yogurt? Affordable yogurt? Because yogurt is quite expensive by Filipino wage and standard, right? We shall get this fruit yogurt. This is important and healthy and amazing. So we get the yogurt, those little cups, right? Take them home and we put them on the table and we're going to eat the yogurt. So we open it, you know, snap it open. And when we start eating, we're like, this is so sour. It says strawberry. There's no flavor. We open all them blueberry things, but we eat it, right? We keep eating because you paid for this. And as an immigrant family, when you buy food, you eat the food.
Facts, straight facts.
And then we get to the bottom of the cup and all the fruit is there and you're supposed to mix it.
Oh my God.
So that was our squishy bread moment.
That's true. If you had never had yogurt here before, how would you know that the fruit is at the bottom?
And you're supposed to mix it all because yogurt is already, you assume that certain brands are just.
I guess so. I guess I don't know. That's so
We're like, this must be some Canadian thing. Maybe flavors are faint for them. We powered through.
I really like how you're like maybe this is just the Canadian way to have yogurt. I love that.
Squishy bread is that. You're right. We should always get the good bread when we can.
It's true. Or I think like that's the fun thing about the pandemic. Everyone started making their own bread. There was like, do y'all remember at the beginning of the pandemic, like last year, there was like no flour, no yeast. Like it was so hard to find stuff to make bread. I was like, maybe I'll start sourdough. Sourdough is very difficult. Like making sourdough starter is very difficult.
And the maintenance, it's like I want to, but like I don't have that commitment.
You gotta like feed it every day. It's like a child. You gotta like burp it and feed it every day. It's like, why is this yeast so demanding of my time?
As someone who has never made sourdough starter before, I am very, very confused.
You have to tell her now about the process, the living organism.
It's a long process.
My only exposure to sourdough starter is that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where like I think Gina inherits the Boyle family sourdough, and like I don't remember what she did. Did she lose it or something in that episode? And then she had to start it again, and they were like, Gina,
I remember that episode.
The family.
It was sad because Cianna, like when you start sourdough, you can't let it die because it's like alive. So you have to feed it. You feed it like flour, right? Flour and water. So it's basically raw dough. And you feed it and then you remove parts of it to burp it because like it's growing, it's gassing. And the sad thing is that Boyle thing was like generations handed down sourdough. So like people every day fed that dough for years. And then it's gone. I don't know.
And then Gina just let it die.
It's just
Oh my God. Chiara, tell everyone on the podcast about your grandmother's plants.
Oh, so in my first year, I moved into my grandparents' house because no one was living in it, and it's downtown, and so I was like, oh, live there for campus or to go to school, and there's like the way my grandparents' house have like a solarium in the front part of their house, and there was like all sorts of plants in there. Like there had to be at least like 20 plants that they were significantly older than I was, and they were possibly somewhere even older than my mother. They were some hardy plants, and so I was one person living in this like big house by myself, so I didn't like really go into the front room. I like kind of just like went to the kitchen, went upstairs. I'd like leave the house, all that jazz, and then like at the end of the school year, we're like moving stuff out of the house, like my stuff out of the house. My mom goes, Yada, you killed all the plants. And I was like, what? And so we all go to the front room, and I had completely forgotten these plants existed and killed all of them because I just forgot that they were there. And I was like, I'm literally out here trying to I'm a child trying to make sure like I'm getting food, I'm getting water, I'm getting sunlight. And I've forgotten to take care of these 20 plus plants that are in my grandparents' house. And I just accidentally killed them all. And so we were able to salvage some of them. We have a couple leaves of like one of those like, those like I don't know how to describe it. We have leaves from one plant that we like were able to like revive. But the rest of them, I killed like 80 years worth of plants just by forgetting that they existed. So I do not have a green thumb at all.
I remember being a kid, and I used to live in Vancouver, and we had an apartment there, and it was my job to water the plants. But I was under 7 at the time, and so I would always forget, and my mom would be like, Cianna, did you water the plants? And I was like, oh, I'll water them now. And because like little like 5-year-old me was like, oh, like it's okay, I'll just give them extra water. So like I'm pretty sure I was double killing all the plants, because like I would let them dry out, and then I would drown them in water to like make up for it. And like I just remember I would go a little bit, like I would just like give them so much that like it would like spill out and be on the carpet too. It was really a mess. And I think my mom was like, these are your chores, Cianna. And like, I was like, don't give me this chore. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to the poor plants that die every time.
Oh no.
They
The
survived.
logic is there though.
They survived. I remember them being alive the whole time I was there. They just lived a tough life. They lived a tough life. Because I was their caretaker.
Hey, at least you didn't kill like 80 years worth of plants. I think that's a win. Probably not 80 years. I'd say maybe 50 years. They weren't that old, but they were old.
Oh dear.
I love that they were older than your mom.
Yeah, some of them were really old. My mom was like, I remember these plants when I was a child. And I was like, my bad, folks.
My bad, folks.
I'm literally so at that point when I accidentally killed all the plants, my grandparents had passed away. But when my grandparents were still alive, I was in elementary school. I was trying to set the table. And I thought I have like a very large, like my mom's so my family, my uncle's family, and then my 2 grandparents all together were 11. And so I'm trying to set the table with like 11 plates. And I'm like maybe 11 at the time. And I'm like trying to carry these plates to like the dining room. It's not a far walk, maybe about 10 steps. But I like literally like take it off the counter, have it in my arms, and I take about 2 steps and just shattered 11 plates all on the ground. And my grandmother turns to me and goes, Chiara, in my 80 years of life, not once have I broken a plate. And you 11, you break 11. And I was like, ah. But she was like, it's okay, we clean it up. And I was like, thank you, Nonna.
Oh, funny.
In my 80 years of life, I've never broken.
Yeah, she'd never broken a plate.
Wow.
But me, I broke a plate for every year I was alive.
Oh no. I don't
Very
have a,
clumsy.
I don't have a plate break. Like I've broken a decent amount of things in my life. My parents they would never like really, like they were pretty chill about that, thankfully. But plants. Okay. So in the Philippines, tropical country, I didn't really do I would sometimes water the plants, but my dad usually did it. And sometimes you don't even need to because it rains and stuff. And it's really good and vibrant, and oh my gosh, plants with no winter. But when we got to Canada, for the first time we were able to put some plants in our balcony. We had these bougainvilleas, beautiful, flowering, vibrant. But when the cold came, they started to just lose all their leaves, and they were just basically these sticks. So when winter came and we were supposed to bring in all the plants, we were like, okay, they're dead, let's throw them away. My mom and I say, and we put them away to be thrown away, right? And my dad takes things down because we live on the 14th floor, throws away the plants that won't make it. Like they're really not gonna make it. But then at night, I look and get a vacuum cleaner from our storage, and I see the two plants in the dark room, the tiny dark room. Like I see them shoved in the corner, and I'm like, what? So I asked my dad, and he's like, I felt bad for them. He decided to keep them, and he nurtured them slowly back to life. Like shame on you both. And now they are like the greenest plants in our house.
Oh
Your
my God,
dad
that's
is
amazing.
so wholesome. Oh my God, I felt bad for them. Nurtured them back to life. Oh my God, that's how I feel about my grandma. So like at her house, my cousin Rachel and I, we've left a lot of plants for her to take care of for us. And like, I'm serious, when she takes care of them, they're like thriving. Like she like totally revived one of my plants when it was like gonna die. And then I like took it back. And then after like a couple of weeks, it was like, I was like, oh no, I need to go back to her, back to the hospital, back to get help from grandma. But like at the same time, sometimes when I go to her kitchen table where all the plants are, I'm looking at some of the plants and I'm like, this plant is literally drowning in water. So like the pot that it's in, it's this orange glass bowl. So it has no, it doesn't actually have any drainage in it, which is probably not that good. But anyways, it's there. And the plant looks pretty healthy, but I looked in it and there's an inch of water. It's the soil and then it's an inch of water. And it's this plant. And I'm like, I feel like I need to dump this out because I feel like the plant's like, this be too much love. This be too much love.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh yeah. Grandma thinks she's doing a really good job, and she is because they're alive. But also I'm like, moss, bacteria, things that kill plants living in that water, maybe.
They're surviving, but are they truly alive?
Wow, Yanni.
Surviving, but are they thriving? Questionable.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, oh my God, I know that we literally said we were going to talk about food. Now we're talking about plants. But
No, plants. All plants are food if you're not a coward.
Well, not some of them are poisonous, but
if you're not a coward,
are poisonous. So like when I lived in Philadelphia, we lived in an area that there are no sidewalks. Like if you live in the GTA, like if you live in Mississauga or if you live in downtown Toronto, I mean, downtown Toronto doesn't count because that's a city, but like if you live in Mississauga, there are like sidewalks and there's like public transportation and like there are ways to get places like without a car. But where I live in Philadelphia, it's really not like that because I live in the suburbs. And so there are zero sidewalks. Like the only place you find sidewalks is in like residential areas. Like, I can walk to the sidewalk to my neighbor's house. But like along roads, like there's no sidewalks. But my aunt who's like lives in Mississauga come to visit us like, I don't know, however many years ago. before the pandemic, obviously. She like is really used to going for walks every single morning. Like here she lives in Mississauga, she walks to work. She's a dentist. And so like she comes here and she's like, where are the sidewalks? So she takes it upon herself to still go on her walks because she knows she has her Fitbit. She's like, me get my 10,000 steps every day. And she would come home with like these berries. I'm like, where the heck did you get berries? Because like I'm a Yardley gal and I drive everywhere because there's no sidewalks. And so she shows up with berries and I'm like, where'd you get them from? And she's like, they're on the side of the road.
What?
And I was like, are those safe? Are those safe? Don't eat those. Don't eat those.
Yeah, I think good rule of thumb, don't eat plants you find on the side of the road unless you're like 100% sure that they are safe to eat.
I mean, like, yo, I don't know. Her and her husband came back with these berries, and I was like, I'm not eating those. No. That's what ShopRite is for, and Giant. Those are grocery stores.
Speaking of
So funny.
like berries and like just eating the plants you see, I remember a very nice like memory from my first year when BP before pandemic, where I was part of the Dig In club on campus. So Dig In is like the agriculture club, the gardening club, and there are multiple gardens on campus. And if you're part of the club, you can help tend to them and harvest. And there's multiple places that we give the produce to, but also you can keep them. And I was joining during harvest season, and I am not a planter person. Like I don't plant plants that are edible. Like I hadn't until that time. So like I walk and I'm with this girl and she's really awesome. We're not in touch, so I don't really remember her name, but like we were walking through them doing the harvest and she would just like grab random like these tiny little berries off of the thing and just like pop them into her mouth, right? I'm like, are you okay? Like it didn't look like they were plants there on purpose either. I was just, are you okay? But evidently those are tomato berries or something and they were really safe. So that was fun. I got to bring home like a sprig of like okra, I think. I got to bring home some vegetables is what I got to do.
Ooh,
yeah,
very nice. Do you garden a lot, Yanni or Cianna? Do either of you have gardens?
No. My aunt who picks berries off the side of the road, she gardens.
Foraging is what that's called.
My aunt who forages in the suburbs of Yardley. She grows tomatoes and other vegetables in their backyard in the summer and stuff. My like niece loves them. She likes to pick them off and then squish them.
Oh no. I have a tomato plant I'm gonna try to keep alive over the summer, but like balcony life, it's in a pot. The lettuce we tried it already dying. I'm not making it.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of, you can do it. It's just like it's a lot of work to like maintain like a garden in like a small space, or like composting in a small space.
Like potted plants are easy, but when they turn to edible, but hey, I have something that draws back to our earlier conversation topic. We were talking about food that you can't buy here in Canada, like ingredients.
Oh yeah.
Change. So there's this fruit called Calamansi. It's basically lime, but it's like this, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's great. And it's green, dark green, and we couldn't really find them around here in Canada. And my dad used to make calamansi juice whenever he gets sick. And you have soy sauce, you squeeze a little of that in there, chili. But one day my aunt calls us, right? Because she lives here, and it's like this frantic call. It's like, hey, very important. She's like, I found a calamansi plant. And it's like, it's revolutionary. And we take the plant, we each get a plant, and it had a lot of fruits, so we would pick them and try to keep them alive. And now we have like this black market of the calamansi seed. But mine, I tried to propagate it. It's still alive. It's just no fruits yet. But that's pretty awesome to have found.
That's amazing.
That's so cool. The reason I was laughing though, Yanni, is like you just held your hand up in like a little circle, and I was like, for everyone listening to the podcast, they can't see it, but also I can see it, and I don't understand how this is different from a lime, because to
It's
me,
that small.
Limes
isn't
are bigger
a lime
than
also
that.
this small?
Limes are bigger than this little
Well,
circle.
limes aren't this big, but limes are
like
like
smaller.
that big. Like
Uh,
what? A lime's like that
okay,
big.
you know why I'm confused? Because my one aunt, she's obsessed. Oh my god, let me tell you a story about this aunt. My other aunt, my
Your
second
aunt's
aunt.
not the foraging one.
Not the foraging aunt, not the foraging aunt. My second aunt, we'll call her my exercise aunt because she loves exercise. My exercise aunt, she's really obsessed with like those like food boxes from like Loblaws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's so excited by them, and so she gets them for us all the time. And the lime that they give you in that is really tiny. So when you did this, in my mind, I was like, that's the same size as a lime. And I was like, I don't compute the difference. That's why I was confused. Oh my god. I have a question though, Yanni. Is limes really popular in is that how you spell the name of that fruit? I've definitely had that before in Vietnam.
Calamansi, it's probably.
I feel like I've had it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Anyways, my question though was, is limes really popular in Filipino cooking? Because like I feel like limes are really popular in Vietnamese cooking.
About limes, because like I grew up, and limes and lemons are not exactly like things we would buy. Like we just use calamansi, maybe the lemon juice. I don't know if they're popular in cooking, but sour things are quite popular. There's this famous dish in the Philippines called sinigang. It's made with I believe it's tamarind. I want to double check really quickly because I can't say the wrong thing about my sinigang. Let me double check the English name of that ingredient. Sinigang. Yeah, tamarind, that's what it's called. It has tamarind, so it's a very sour soup. The sour, the better, I say. And you usually cook it with pork. I like it with shrimp. And so there are sour recipes. But I don't know the lime.
Yeah. I was just wondering, learned 2 years ago that so like growing up like my mom always makes pho, which is like the beef noodle soup, Vietnamese beef noodle soup, and I don't add anything to my pho. I just eat it like with the soup and like noodles and whatever's in it. But if you go to any pho restaurant like here, like they give you bean sprouts and they give you lime slices. And I went to Vegas with my mom's side of the family. Right before the pandemic, whatever summer before pandemic started. And like my aunt was adding lime to her pho, and I didn't understand because like I never like eaten it that way. Like I just always was confused when we go to the restaurant. I'm like, I understand why they giving us bean sprouts, because in my mind's like they're trying to make you healthy or something like that. Eat some bean sprouts, because like bean sprouts are. I have another story about bean sprouts, but bean sprouts, they like, I don't know how to say it in English, but like foods having nothing to do with temperature or hot and cold, and it like affects your health. And so bean sprouts are cold, and so it's good for you if you're sick and stuff like that. So it's like, they're trying to like make us healthy with bean sprouts. But I never understood why we had the lime. And then my aunt told me that in South Vietnam, that's where it's popular to eat pho with lime and bean sprouts and stuff. But in the north, which is where like my family's from, it sounds like it's not as popular to have it with lime. Like they'll eat it with other things.
That's
interesting. Do you think then, like, because like most pho restaurants, like every pho restaurant I've been to has always had like the lime, bean sprouts, the whole shebang. Do you think like it's then become like maybe more like popularized across the board that like all like or most pho restaurants will have like the lime regardless of like the regional origin of the place? Like, have you been to a restaurant where they don't have
I've never been to a restaurant where they don't have, but something interesting about Vietnam is that there's like North Vietnam And then there's actually like Central Vietnam, and then there's South Vietnam, and they all have different like, it's like different regions that have different foods that are popular. And I don't know that much about Vietnam. I just know what my grandma cooks. But North and South Vietnam, they have different dialects, and there's like, I think there's political things. So I don't know anything about the politics. So I don't know if it's because like, I don't know if it just is because of like, I feel like it might be because of politics. It might not just be because of whatever. I don't know. I don't want to talk about something that I don't want to give out wrong information. This is just what I heard from my aunt. The stuff about the lime.
But the lime is really interesting. I'm gonna remember that every time we eat at a Vietnamese restaurant now. They also have the mint leaves. I've noticed.
Yeah. Okay. I think mint leaves. That's true. That I don't know about mint leaves, but my grandma actually eats her pho with mint leaves, but I don't. I don't eat anything extra on it. I just eat it. Just that.
When I first ate at a Vietnamese restaurant only here in Canada, but I recognized the bean sprouts first because they're in the Philippines too. We call them toge. And I knew exactly, like, you put it in the soup and then it gets cooked. And so I took so much. I always put bean sprouts because it was a recognizable thing. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I love pho. It's really good.
It is
Oh my God.
really good.
Love pho. And when I go to pho restaurants here, I never get goikwan, which is the it's like fresh spring roll. It's like it's like Vietnamese spring roll, but the kind that's not fried.
The
it's
rice
in rice
paper rolls?
Yeah, rice paper rolls. And so I only ever have eaten them like homemade. But when I went to Vegas with my family, like we literally chose this Vietnamese restaurant because my grandpa, he's just not really about Western food. So we kind of gotta, every so often go to a non-Western place so that, he feels like, okay, I see my noodles, I see my rice, I see my soy sauce, I feel a bit at home here. So we go to this restaurant, and I had goikwan there for the first time, like not made from home. And I like thought it was really interesting because at this restaurant, you make it yourself. So like, to explain, like, instead of giving you pre-made rolls where they roll it and put it together in the kitchen, they give you all of the fillings for it, and they give you warm water, and it comes in this like container that like I felt like it was revolutionary because okay, so at home, like, this is so hard to explain. At home, when you make the rice paper, if you've seen rice paper wraps, they're stiff, right? They're hard. So what you do is you dip them in hot or warm water, and then it absorbs it and it becomes soft, right? And so at home, we just get a really like big pan, and we fill it with hot water, and then you dip it in, and then you take it out and you fold it on the plate. But this place, they gave you this like I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a vase, but imagine that the vase is very skinny and it's a semicircle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
At my friend's house.
Skinny and flat,
and
like
you just
this.
roll it, right?
No.
You don't dip the thing in it and you turn it.
Yeah. Like that. So like there's one that holds the, it's like dual. It's like a toaster. It's kind of like a toaster. You can think of it like a toaster, but like a little more sleek than a toaster. Like toaster needs to fit all of the parts that heat up into it. It's like a toaster. So one side has the dry rice paper wraps in it, and then you take it out of one side, and then you dip it in the other side, which contains the water, and then you like you can pick how much lettuce you want, how much bone you want, how much pork you want, if you want peanuts in it or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I really want to ask this restaurant if I can take the holder home, because like this is like, it's so much more convenient than like having the big pan, because the pan just takes up so much space, and this is like so narrow. It's like a toaster, like a skinnier than a toaster. Anyways, I was like, oh my gosh, who knew these things existed out there?
I love that they made it more, they made you wonder if they do that only in that restaurant. Revolutionary.
Yeah, I was
stuff.
like, I was shook, especially because I actually don't like pho from the restaurant. I much prefer when it's made at home, and so like I usually would be like, oh, like why go there when it's better at home anyway?
I think that's like any like cultural dish. Like you have it good. You have it like, you know, your mom makes it, your grandma makes it, relatives make it for you, and like chef's kiss. This is pinnacle of this food. And then you can go out to a restaurant and you're like, this can't compare. And so then you're like, what's the point? What's even the point of me going out to get it when I can have it so delicious from the people I love?
Oh my gosh, speaking of that and people you love, I need to tell you something. And this is okay, so my Lola, my grandmother on my dad's side, she's a caterer and she has her whole own business and she makes these kinds of cookies, distributes them, people buy them. People know her for it in Bulacan, which is the region, the place where my dad's family is. It's lengua, barquillos, and minasa. And I'm going to talk about barquillos because every time I would drive up there, 3-hour drive as a kid and be there, they would give me jars of it, you know, and it was my favorite thing in the world. And barquillos is like I don't know how to explain. It's like a wafery thing, and you know sticko, like I don't think you know.
No.
Okay, so they're these long, like think of a tube, but the length of a pencil, and small, but they're like made of a wafer that's rolled, and it's just crispy and good tasting and sweet.
Ooh.
Yeah, and she would make them. But when I got to Canada, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna get that here. But the last time my aunt went to the Philippines, she brought home some stuff, right? And there's an entire like bag that she had to bring that was from my Lola. It was just full of jars of barquillos. And I saved them for a year. I made them last. That's the kind of thing you do. I don't have any more now, but I'm eyeing them from a distance.
Next time when the
your
pandemic's
aunt brought them over.
Yeah, so that means that because my aunt visited the Philippines a while back, and she went to her home. My aunt's on my father's side, and my grandma, my Lola, she packed barquillos specifically for me, and she even altered the jar because the jar's a big jar, but you can't bring it that big. So she custom made like smaller. She took smaller jars from her other recipes, and she custom made smaller barquilloses for me. Just so I can get.
That's true love.
God.
A grandmother's love like that. Oh,
She's amazing. My grandparents.
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
cute.
That reminded me of like, have y'all ever traveled internationally and then you have to like transport food back home? Has that ever? Okay.
I'm in here.
I've run into, every time I go, like I've only been to Italy like 3 times, and all for school trips. But every time that I had ever like been, I always was like, I'm gonna pack light, gonna leave lots of room in the suitcase so I can bring back lots of goods and stuff. And so the most recent time that I went like by myself, because usually I've gone with my family, and my like dad doesn't pack any, like the man packs very light. So we just pile all our extra stuff in his suitcase and then bring it back. But this time I was all alone and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like so over, like my suitcase is so heavy because I've purchased 2 giant liter bottles of olive oil, a bottle of wine, and then I had like souvenirs and stuff. So it wasn't even like my luggage was super full. It was just full of like olive oil and wine. And I was like really struggling to transport it back.
2 liquids.
Like, yeah, it's heavy liquids. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And so I had to go out and buy like a duffel bag like from, I don't know, like a sporting goods store. And I was in this very small town. I'm like, where the hell am I gonna find a sporting goods store? So I finally found one, and I was like, I need a duffel bag. And they're like, okay, here. And so I had to buy a duffel bag and like put my stuff. And then still it was too heavy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm literally like, I'm gonna have to check like an extra bag, and that's gonna be expensive. But then I like remembered I had a reusable bag that I brought with me on the trip. So I put all my food in that, so like my cookies, I bought like, I don't know, other treats, and I put that all in there. I had like 4 bags. I had my backpack, a duffel bag, this reusable bag, and my suitcase. And I'm like a solo traveler just struggling with all my heavy items through the
Oh my
airport.
God.
And I finally get to customs, and they're like, anything to declare? And I was like, yes, I have so many things to declare. And they're like, okay, calm down, man. That's my big fear. It's always forgetting to declare things. I don't want to end up on border security or something. So I was like, I have all these things to declare. And they're like, okay, chill, ma'am. You can come on in.
Okay. Oh my God. Crossing the border with food. We never ever bring back food ever, because twice, actually, it happened twice. One time my grandma gave me jung to bring home, and it's like it's sticky rice and mung bean and pork wrapped in banana leaves. And so like she gave it to us, and that time like we packed it in the car, and like it has meat in it, so like I think you're not allowed to bring it back across the border, but we had forgotten about it. Like we had forgotten that it was there, and it was like buried in the back of our trunk. And that day we're driving back to the US, and the US is really strict about that kind of stuff. They decided to check our car. Like we've never had our car checked. They decided to check our car that day. They literally open our trunk. They find this stupid thing in the trunk. And like, you know, if you don't know what it is, it totally looks suspicious. It's like a square wrapped in banana leaves with like string around it, because that's how you cook it. And like it's in a plastic bag, and it just looks kind of like, just doesn't look like, you know, it looks like, I don't know what it looks like. But the border guard totally like yelled at us, like said like, if you ever lie when you cross the border, like we will not let you back into the United States, all this stuff. And my dad told me just recently, he's like, when that happened, after we finished crossing the border, because they just threw it out and let us through, thank goodness. My dad goes to my brother, Daddy, why did you lie to the man? And my dad's like, we didn't lie. It's just unintentional. Anyway, so that happened one time, and one time we came across the border with mooncake. And you know, mooncake it's packaged, but it has egg inside. And that border guard was really nice. He just said like, oh, like you're not allowed to bring that, and I think you actually need to like go inside to the stupid building and like fill out some paperwork to say that we had it. And my dad was like, if you just throw it out, can we just go? Because like, you know, it's an 8-hour drive. We just want to get on the road. And the guy's like, I'm really sorry.
Hello, Cianna.
Sorry.
All right.
He's like, I'm really sorry, y'all. We can't just let you through. Like, you actually need to go inside and declare it and fill out the paperwork. And so after the first time, we already never bring food. But then after the second time, we're like, okay, guys, every single time we leave to go back home, we're like, there's no food, right? Just throw it all away. It's not wasteful at this point, because what's wasteful is spending 3 hours at the border cooking about food that we're more than willing to throw away anyways. Anyway.
Yeah, the border restrictions on food are so strict. I didn't even like, I was thinking international flights at least, because I remember when we were the only international flight I've been to was a one-way flight to Canada. And no, we were very careful about everything. Like we were scrupulous. Like even the what do you put in the hard drive you bring, kind of scrupulous, you know, like you don't want anything that's like just keep the files, keep the pictures, because you know you don't want to be held up, especially when it's a whole family moving to a new area. But I didn't know it was like that between the US and Canada border.
Yeah, they're like pretty strict on like, I don't know. it was really weird. One time, so both my sisters play like high level softball. And so we used to travel to the US a lot for like tournaments and stuff. And one year that we were traveling, it was just my dad. And so my dad had to get like this thing signed that said like he was allowed to take me and my sisters into Canada without my mom. And so we had that, whatever, but also we had my cousin visiting from Italy who was like around my age at the time, so like a teenager. And we like get to the border crossing and they're like, you know, who's in the car? And we're telling him who's in the car. And he's like, all right, pull over. And we're like, oh my God. But we also had Minion, you know, those like Minion sugar cookies?
Oh no.
Like from Pillsbury, we had those. We were like eating those in the car. We're like, he wanted our Minion cookies. We got pulled over for our Minion cookies. They're gonna search our car and take our Minion cookies. That was not the case. They just wanted to like, it was really weird. They wanted to fingerprint my cousin because she was entering the US for like the first time via like the land crossing. Very odd. But now we always have this joke that like everyone's like, hide the Minion cookies. The Border Patrol wants our Minion cookies. Watch out. But that's not the case.
Yo, crossing into the US is always scary. Like when I come back from the US, it's always so easy. Like, what's the border guard gonna ask me? Nothing. Like, because I'm Canadian, I have the feeling that they're just like, they're just gonna let me back in. Also, I'm a kid, right? Like, what am I here doing? I'm like driving with my kid brother in the seat next to me. Canada always lets me in, but going into the US, like I literally practice as we're driving up to the crossing. I always am like rehearsing, like, yeah, okay, I live in Philadelphia, like I live in Yardley, Pennsylvania. I go to school there. My dad has this type of visa. I have this type of visa. Like,
yeah.
Anyways, I just think the American border guards are really scary.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid every time I go to the US because like I don't think like not afraid. That's a little One time I went to one of my sister's baseball tournaments it was in like Disney World. And so like outside the park, there's a sign that says, please do not bring your firearms into the park. I'm like, who's trying to bring a firearm into Disney? Like, chill out, folks. And so that's like partially my fear of the US.
Disney
park. We don't have free healthcare. And that's also my fear.
Healthcare's nice though. Here. Yeah. Very good stuff.
I think that's so funny.
That really kills me. I don't think that everyone has a firearm on them, but then I have to remember there's a possibility everyone does have a firearm on them.
I'm not going to comment on
that. The American in the chat.
Very edible firearms. Oh dear. But yeah, no, Disney World though. Always wanted to go there. Pretty interesting. Once my family becomes Canadian citizen, like properly, we'll get the visa and we'll be like, haha, we can enter the US now. And I think my mom's already planning that trip. Far away.
Okay.
Also post-pandemic, like when you can go and people don't have to wear masks. Because like, I don't know. Do you really want to have all your Disney photos with masks on?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, far away.
I don't know. Maybe that's a weird reason. Probably the main reason is a large population of people gathering.
Pretty sure Disney World is open though. I think Disney World is open right now.
It is, but like, do you really want to go? Like, there's a lot of people there coming from different places.
I'm not going to Disney World. If anything, I think I have an issue with Disney World, and my issue is that you're no longer a child after you're 12. Like, you pay adult ticket prices after you're 12.
After
I'm like,
12?
Excuse me? I'm a child until I'm 18. I'm still a child after I'm 18, but legally, I guess I'm an adult. So, okay, you can start charging me adult prices when I turn 18, but you are literally Disney World. When I am 12, I am still a small child. Like, y'all are lying to me now. Anyways, so.
It's true.
I don't.
But to be fair, TTC being free, it ends when you're 12.
It does Honestly, I think
Disney's like the
TTC should
land
be
of your
free.
childhood. I feel like Disneyland
Yeah.
is all about like childhood magic and stuff like that. And then they're out here with like, but after you're 12, the childhood magic ends and you're now an adult and you're going to pay twice.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the real world. Mickey's a mascot.
Anyways, but that's fine. I mean, Disney World is still fun. I went when I was 12.
Just
And
got
that's
in with those
what I
kid
know.
prices.
Yeah, like my cousin, I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, but that trip when we went when I was 12, my cousin was, I think she had just turned 12, but she's really, really short and really, really skinny and really, really young looking. So her mom said like on the ticket that she's 11. And so that her mom didn't, okay, granted, that mother is my exercise aunt. She brought her 4 other children with her. So she already paid adult prices for 4 children. She was like, for this one child who looks like younger than like 3 years younger than she actually is, I'm only gonna pay so much.
The exercise aunt. I love how we
So
know
funny.
the 2 aunts now.
Yeah, the exercise ant and the foraging ant.
Yeah,
2 aunts.
yeah. I have 6. We can keep going.
Oh dear.
Dedicated a whole podcast episode to my aunts. They're all so funny.
Cianna's
They all
6
have really,
aunts.
really, really unique personalities.
But
Oh
yeah.
my god, I'm deceased. It's just like, I mean, bringing it back to the topic of food. We now
We did touch on food. I mean, food in the border, right?
That's true. That's true. But Yanni, do you have any like favorite recipes you want to like shout out or anything, or like something what you're currently making or currently loving to make?
Mm-hmm. So you already know the one recipe I did share with you. It's this focaccia recipe that I really like because you can just leave it like in your fridge like overnight, and like it's very easy. It's no need, and it's really fun because it uses a lot of olive oil and in all the right proportions. And it's by the recipe, if you want to look it up for the people listening to this podcast, it's by this person named Alexandra Cooks. If you just Google Alexandra Cooks and then focaccia, like it's right there. But right now, the recipe I'm working to perfect is this French bowl recipe, which is French. It's just bread that's water, yeast, salt, flour, four ingredients, but like it takes me 6 hours. And unfortunately, that recipe is a recipe I've had to write using multiple recipes to accommodate for my own stuff, like the flour I can get and things. I don't have a website link for that. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. Bread's fun.
That's so cool that you've like Frankensteined your own kind of like bread recipe.
Yo, it's because like they ask, like for example, in the recipe I was really aiming to follow, it was from a book, a random book. I don't even remember the title. It was like, 750 grams of water to 1,000 grams of flour, and I'm like, that's 75% hydration. Excuse me. So I try it the first time, right? And I have all-purpose flour. Like I haven't bought baking flour yet, right? So all-purpose flour is 750, 1,000, right? And it's soup. I'm like, I can't even need this. It was like slushy. I splatted it onto the counter and it just like so I had to modify that. Also, it called for a Dutch oven and I don't have that. So what I've been doing is like I've been putting steam in my home oven and like slowly like figuring out how to work that. So it's like it's different times too. And also winter is a whole different baking experience.
That's the thing about baking. It's literally chemistry. There's so many things that you have to like keep in mind, like how much you're adding, what's the altitude of your house in relation to everything, like moisture in the air.
I have a tiny little, I'm holding up to the camera a thing that measures both the moisture and the temperature in the air of the room. I also have a little thermometer to measure the temperature of the water and the flour, and I need to use both of these to come up with something.
Wow.
Oh God. I didn't buy this for baking though. My dad did it because he wanted to know the moisture in the house. So useful.
Nice.
My
Yeah.
bread is currently rising. It actually technically has risen, but it's the first rise, so it's okay. It can overproof a bit. It's fine. I'll cut it
The
away.
joys of baking.
So joyful.
I mean, now in the summer, as soon as I finished all my classes, I was like, all right, folks, it's time to bake. I made the focaccia recipe that Yanni mentioned. She was the one who put me on that. Top quality. I've made, what else did I make recently? Well, I made banana bread. Bon Appetit's best banana bread. That's good. And also Bon Appetit's best chocolate chip cookie. Those are literally chef's kiss. Like, they're so good. Highly recommend. The only thing with that recipe is that it doesn't say to chill the dough before you bake it. Chill the dough before you bake it. Makes a world of a difference.
Chill the dough of the banana bread?
No, sorry, the cookies. Chocolate chip cookies.
Because like banana bread, I have a recipe I've been using that has saved me. It's like, it's foolproof. And a tip, if you're making banana bread and you have muffin tins, bake it in the muffin tins. You get like the crispiness on all the sides. It's not just a loaf of, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Smart.
And it's just a lifesaver because my family is a family of 3. We buy bananas. We're like, oh, we miscalculated. There are too many bananas and they're starting to grow. Banana bread is the solution. But yeah, I was shocked when you said chill the dough. I was like, you chill the banana dough?
Yeah, no, not the banana bread. Chill the cookie dough before you bake it, not the banana bread.
I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Cianna, do you have any recipes that have you made anything recently?
Made anything recently? Also made banana bread recently. I don't know. Oh, you know what? My aunt and I made pizza last week. So like not super Italian, totally Canadianized pizza because like at home in Philadelphia, one of our grocery stores, they always sell like this flatbread. And so when I'm at home, we just use this flatbread to not have to make the dough because we tried making the dough. We really don't succeed every single time. So we're like, oh, let's stop trying when we can just buy this flatbread. And so my aunt found flatbread the other day and she's like, oh, let's make the pizza that we make at your house. And so, yeah, you know, we put, yeah, I won't tell you because I feel like the Italian you will be like,
no judgment. I like pineapple on pizza, and apparently that's controversial. So.
I like it too.
I like pineapple on pizza too. Yes.
All of us right here taking the
pineapple on pizza. Oh, we had it. We got this combo one time for a Smixu event. It was pineapple, jalapenos, and bacon, and it was actually really good. Like a spicy pizza, Hawaiian.
Since we're already out here with all the controversies, I'll tell you what we put on pizza. Like we had all the normal stuff. We had cheese and sauce and pepperoni, but then we also put peppers, onions, pineapples, mushroom, cilantro.
Interesting.
Some choices here.
This is my aunt's choice. I was like, don't put it on the whole pizza. Just put it on your part.
That's so funny. I feel like that was a pretty normal sounding pizza though, just up until the cilantro. And
it was really the cilantro. In my mind, the cilantro was the last thing that went on the pizza, and I remember being like, cilantro. The people watching the podcast can't see my facial expression. I was really throwing shade about the cilantro.
Yeah, my parents recently they tasted recently the chicken barbecue kind of pizza from like Pizza John, and like they just love it. They just buy it all the time now whenever we get pizza, which we don't get it quite as often, but when we do get pizza, they do make sure to order that one. I don't get it yet, but chicken barbecue on pizza was like, what? When? But that's a thing.
Is the sauce replaced with barbecue sauce?
Yes.
Or is the chicken okay?
Barbecue sauce and you got chicken.
I have not tried that either, but interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah,
I've heard of it before. I've also heard of it of people replacing the like sauce with like like the creamy garlic sauce. I've heard that before.
Yeah,
But
that
I
one
don't.
too.
It's interesting. I like feel like it's yeah. I feel like it can like the sugar in the barbecue sauce would maybe like caramelize a bit, like get a little like I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but it's interesting.
Ooh, hey, tangent. Did you guys ever play Club Penguin as a kid?
Yes, but I was more Webkins than Club Penguin.
There was this little Easter egg because like there's a pizzeria in Club Penguin where you could make this pizza on a conveyor belt. But at the title screen, if you press the lever, it would make a dessert pizza instead, and all the ingredients would be desserts. And it was the cutest thing ever. And if anyone here listening, please tell me that you relate to this. This is a stark memory from my childhood.
Did you ever, that just unlocked another memory of my childhood. Did you ever play cool math games?
Oh, heck yeah. Flash died.
Cianna, did you ever play cool math games?
I did not. Maybe this is a Canadian thing.
I don't know. I think I don't know. Anyways, for anyone listening or watching, Cool Math Games is like a website with a bunch of like flash games. And there's like this one kind of collection on Cool Math Games called like Papa's something food Area. So there's like Papa's Pizzeria, Papa's Freezeria, Papa's Sushi-eria, yes, all, like literally all these things. And you just like make food. And they have like all these like really wonky looking characters. And it's so fun.
Hey, these are unlocking memories. I can't even remember the websites we used to play games on, but I remember being in like computer class and just being like playing, just going on game sites, and instead of doing our PowerPoint presentations like we were supposed to on the Tundra, we'd be playing like, you know, games like that where you make pizza, or like there was one game that I used to play all the time where like you were like a babysitter and like you just had to like it's kind of like the pizza game where you just click and the baby's crying, you have to do whatever it tells you to do.
Is it the Barbie one?
I think I played that. It
wasn't Barbie. I can't remember what website it was, but I just remember being like, this is low-key shady.
Yeah, guys, Papa's Pizzeria, the whole franchise of the Papa's franchise. Like I have a best friend who's like super, like she knows every character. You know that there are plots, like characters have recurring, like it's literally a thing. And because it's not like Diner Dash where you click and you do things. Like you literally have to assemble stuff. It's a time management game. But guys, you don't understand. I remember my first year when I'd wait by the Jack and Humanities building for my office hours, I'd be playing freaking Sushi on my laptop.
Yo, it's fun.
You know what though? First year university, I don't know why we started this, but my roommate, she found old Webkins codes, and we played too much Webkins in person. Like there was like 2 months where we would like the two of us, like in first year university, I live in Loretto, right? So we pushed our beds together, so it made one giant bed, and we would just laze around on our beds and just be playing Webkins.
That's so funny. That reminds me, at my high school in our like grade 12 year, like my friend got a Webkins because they had them at Dollarama, and so she got a Webkins. So she's like, I'm just playing, I'm vibing. And so my friend started a chain reaction in our high school, got everyone playing Webkins. There was actually a shortage of our school is behind in front of a mall. So there's a shortage of Webkins at the Dollarama in the mall. So they had to be like, no Sanies kids coming in to like buy like Webkins.
So funny. Oh my god.
Oh dear.
They don't make Flash games like that anymore. Actually,
there's no more Flash.
Doesn't even exist.
Flash doesn't exist
anymore. But yeah, anyways, this is a long tangent to say that. I don't know what this was to say, but this was a good time. Memories were unlocked. Food was shared.
I think the main messages of today's podcast are, one, food can really connect people and make lasting and impressionable memories on you growing up and link you to family that's even far away. And second,
unlock your inner child. You know, just because you turn 12 and you now need to pay adult prices, it doesn't mean that you need to be an adult at 12. You don't need to be an adult at 21 either. Like, have fun and be open and embracing your authentic self.
That's very true, as evidenced by our
There's evidence of webkins and flash games.
Flash games.
Yeah. Papa's Freezeria.
Papa's
Alrighty.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty,
Thank you everyone for listening and tuning into this week's podcast. Thank you, Yanni, for coming on our podcast.
Thanks for having me. I love it. It was all great. Y'all are great.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty, that
Any
brings us
final
to
words?
Do you have any final advice for students, Yanni, before we end it off today?
Well, I think it already wraps up, you know, especially now since everything is kind of more virtual for students who might be listening or incoming students at UT. Hey, orientation team, I'm a leader. Let's go, guys. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. Okay. But yeah, no, don't limit yourself when it comes to like having fun with things you love. Love things that you love, you know? It's food, plants, bread, baking, or freaking webkins. Yeah, webkins. Like, indulge yourself in those things because they make things brighter, and like, why hide them, you know? They help. And yeah.
Yes.
You.
Yes, I agree. Alrighty,
Thank you so much, Yanni.
Logging off for today. Thank you so much, Yanni. Thank you, Chiara.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.